Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. Today is going to be the day that Season 2 is implemented into Mechabellum, and I quickly wanted to give you guys a patch preview as we have just received the full patch notes and the balance changes as well. So what is going to change? They say, hello commanders, update 1.2 is finally here. There are new season rewards. They have prepared many new season rewards for us in Season 2, and they've made it faster for us to progress through the rewards tree. Just like before, at the beginning of the new season, Combat Power and Insight will be reset to 1, and MMR will be reset to 90% of the original. This means that you'll only lose 10% of the MMR that you currently have. At the same time, the system will issue rewards such as medals and credits based on your performance in the previous season. In addition, all season points that were not spent in the previous season will be converted into credits. These rewards will, I think, also be based off of Insight. So if you're someone who likes to bet on the games using the in-game points, I think you can get special rewards for that as well if you happen to have quite high Insight. Now, apart from that, we can see some of the rewards here already. I think that the emotes look particularly funny. We've got a little crawler here. We've got a crying steel ball. We've got a little fang. I think this is also a fang. We've got a guy here that looks pretty beat up. They look fantastic. You can see a crawler medal, I think. Of course, there's the skins. I believe that I saw a picture as well of a flaming crawler skin, which if we get that, that would be insane. I'm really looking forward to it because we haven't had chav skins yet, and it's something I've wanted for a while. So yeah, looking forward to this. I think this is going to be a good thing. Progressing fast to the rewards tree has been a bit of a pain. I think at the end of the season, we've only had 25 unique people able to get to Grandmaster. And yeah, we've obviously had some bumps along the way with the mechanics. Being able to lose progress wasn't a great thing. So I hope that they fix that and it'll be a more pleasant experience, just grinding, playing games, not having to worry about losing progress and being incentivized to just play the game that is Mechabellum. Of course, we have a new unit, Raiden. I've already made a video about it. If you want to check that out, the link will be up there. New giant flying unit that emits 3 lightning bolts to hit 3 different targets with each attack. Good at fighting medium-sized units and has multiple unique techs. This will replace the Overlord. We'll get to that in a bit. It's going to cost 400, just like all other giants. And yeah, it seems to be pretty powerful. It seems like it has an identity quite similar to Carry Overlord, if you knew that comp. So like, when I say that, I mean Overlord with range and overload as the techs. It seems to be somewhat similar to that. I expect this to be played defensively or offensively. I don't think it'll see much play in standard because it has a max amount of range of 150, but some of its techs diminish the range. And yeah, 150 is on the lower end of units you will see in long-range battles. So I expect this to show up in aggressive and defensive matchups. We have a unit remake, Sabretooth. We're always looking for ways to revamp old units. This time we have completely remade the model of the Sabretooth and added a new tech, secondary armament, to it. The new Sabretooth will appear in the initial unit selection, and this will significantly increase the variety of the initial unit lineup. I really like what they did. I think that this is a success in terms of the looks. It's an even bigger tank, so what's not to like? I love the secondary armaments. I think it looks great, and it's a cool little addition. I think some of the community has already dubbed it cheek guns as a play on the Overlord's chin gun. And yeah, looking forward to this unit. I think it's great that they're adding some of the mercenary units to the initial unit lineup. That gives some variety. I'd like to see some of the other ones being added there as well, but we'll see if they choose to do that. What will this mean? I think the biggest change is going to be that tarantulas are not going to have a good time. I think tarantulas were already kind of weak at the end of season. The units that are quite vulnerable to being countered, and they need a lot of investment. And Sabretooth is definitely one of its counters. So being able to start with them, I think if you're a tarantula, if you have a tarantula opener and you face a Sabretooth opener, you're not going to have a good time. And your opponent can always buy them as well on turn 2 if they want to. So yeah, I think spiders will not be having a good time at start of season. Other thing, maybe Mustang packs will be playable. You can now guarantee that you're going to be able to buy a Sabretooth to pair up with your Mustang. So maybe we'll see that pack being picked a bit more often. Yeah, excited to see what this will bring. We have a unit repositioning, the Overlord. Always imagined Overlord being a huge battleship. With the addition of the new aerial unit Raiden, we finally have the opportunity to reposition Overlord. The adjusted Overlord has become larger, stronger, and more expensive, making it a more powerful presence than other giant units. So yeah, obviously this is quite a big change. Raiden replaces what the Overlord was as the 400 cost flying giant, and Overlord becomes a new class of 500 cost flying giant. It got tankier, it got more damage, we'll get to that in a bit. I still think it'll be quite powerful, but it will probably not be as spammable as before. I think that this leans more towards carry Overlord, so with range, Overlord, Overload, and something like Wasp Spawn and Photon, rather than the Chin Gun build with Jump Drive, because I think that benefited more from having more spammable Overlords. All of the cards, I believe, will just remain. So mass-produced Overlord will still exist, but it'll be a 400 cost Overlord, and improved Overlord will still exist as well, which will be a 600 cost Overlord. Very expensive, but it has potential to be an absolute monster of a carry unit. We've got a new survival brawl mode unit at the Death Knell. This was already in the game. I made a video about that as well. Check that out if you're interested. Players can find the Death Knell in unit reinforcement cards in survival mode and brawl mode. The Death Knell is an extremely powerful Titan class unit and the ultimate form of Melting Point. It can also be a potential counter to many popular strategies in the 4-player brawl mode. I liked it. I think it was quite cool when I got to play it for the first time. So yeah, I'm not a big survival or brawl mode player, but I think it's cool that they're adding stuff for those modes as well. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what brawl players and survival players will be making of this. There's a new starting specialist, the Intensive Training Expert. Now, this training specialist obtains an extra 50 supplies in the first round, and it gets 1 intensive training for free. We think the specialist may provide interesting ways to introduce unusual matchups in earlier rounds. I think this will be a lot of fun to play. I don't think it'll be particularly strong. I think it'll be kind of middle of the pack. Obviously, you only get 50 supplies on round 1, so it's not an econ spec. It's like old elite specialist, for those of you that remember that. And it will only allow you to basically intensive training 100 cost units, so maybe you can get like 1 level 2 Arclight on turn 1. This will get stronger though. The fact that you have a guaranteed intensive training means that things like rapid cooldown or quick cooldown, I think it's called, are going to be better. Cards like Enhancement Module, obviously, with the fact that you've got the guaranteed intensive training, could be very powerful. And I can imagine some shenanigans happening with that and the new Overlord as well, as that will have a higher upgrade cost too. So yeah, looking forward to this. I don't think it'll be broken, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. I've liked the other specialists they've added. They've been pretty fun to play and not busted in any sort of sense. So looking forward to it. That brings us to the balance adjustments. We start with Sabertooth, the new tech secondary armament. Install 1 secondary gun on both the left and right side of the Sabertooth. The new secondary guns have 95 range, which is the same as the Saber, and they attack every 4 seconds to deal 2000 damage. The damage increases by 200 per unit rank increased. I think this is a typo. I think it goes up by 2k per level. If it doesn't, it's really bad, but I believe that it adds 2k every level. It's quite a fun one. It does not benefit from other techs that you might get. So if you click double shot, if you click range, the secondary armament guns will not be getting that, which means that it's kind of awkward to play this alongside range on the Saber. And so you'll probably only want to play this as a frontline Sabertooth if you want to click secondary armament and keep your Sabertooth at 95 range as a real brawler with those 2 additional armaments on the sides. The attack interval of the Saber has been increased from 3 to 3.6, which is a 20% increase, but its attack has also been increased from 6k up to 7.3k, which is a bigger increase of 23%. The HP, though, has been decreased ever so slightly by 3%. The cost of double shot has been increased from 100 to 150. I think this is a good change. This was the best tech on the unit by far, and you basically would never regret clicking it. You probably still won't. 150 is very cheap for a tech that gives that much DPS increase. The cost of Missile Interceptor has been decreased from 200 to 150, so it has very cheap techs now. Now, granted, Missile Interceptor is not very efficient on this unit, but it might be worth running and just to diminish the damage on units like Stormcallers if you happen to face them. And the experience requirement to rank up has been increased by 20%. This is probably a good change considering you can start with the units. I can understand this, especially with some of the matchups like Tarantula. It could get out of control. So I think I like these changes overall. We'll have to see how this impacts the performance of the unit. The new Sabertooth should become stronger against heavy units because of its higher damage, but weaker against light units because of its higher attack interval. Obviously, it does have this option to get secondary armaments, which might make it ever so slightly better against light units, but do keep in mind this tech does not have splash, so it will still struggle against chaff. Overlord. Cost increased from 400 to 500, 25% increase. HP, though, increased by 40%, and so has the attack. So it is quite a monster now. The damage to player HP has been increased as well, from 350 to 400, and Mothership now produces 5 Wasps instead of 4. This is exactly the same as the cost increase, right? 25% increase in Wasp produced because of the 25% increase in cost. Overlord Artillery's damage has been increased from 5.5k to 7k base. I also think that it might scale a bit better, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see how that works. The cost of photon emission has been reduced, which is probably because there's not... Well, it's the only photon emission tech that can hit air units, and because of the increased cost, I think they've decreased the cost of the photon emission to kind of try and make up for the fact that it'll be much harder to photon emission your air units now. The cost of field maintenance has been increased from 150 to 250. This has probably got to do with the fact that this has much more hit points now, and they don't want this to get out of control. The dev note is we're likely to make adjustments to the Overlord again in the coming weeks based on statistical data. Makes sense. It's kind of hard to see where this will fit in. I do believe this can still be good against the new Raiden. It'll still be good against things like Wraith, Phantom, other ground units. Again, I expect this to mostly be played with range and overload. At least that will be the tech setup I'll be trying to run first. But maybe Overload Artillery will still be playable. Arclight gets some balance changes as well. The experience required to rank up has been increased by 30%, which is quite a big change. And the cost of charge shot has been decreased from 200 to 150, which is actually a buff. I don't think this is going to be enough, but I'm speaking from a high MMR perspective. Arclights have been taken over, especially standard gameplay, as the chaff clear unit of choice. It's very cheap and it scales along during the game, so you don't have to worry about getting much other chaff clear units, except if you have to deal with like Shielded Fang or Loose Formation Crawler. But apart from that, it's a great scaling unit. They're trying to dim some of that down because of its scaling is obviously linked to the level. But it still fires very fast, and I think that you will be able to level it still during the mid-game because of how strong it is. So I expect this to not change this Arclight Worm meta we've seen. I think that will still be the thing to look out for if you are playing long-range standard games. Wasp has gotten some changes as well. The cost of jump drive went up from 50 to 100, which I'm very happy with. This has been a extremely common play, at least in my MMR range, where if you're playing aggro, round 2, you will see jump drive wasps being deployed by the defender, and I think it's good for the defender to have tools, but I have gotten a bit tired of how much it warps the game, and it seems like all of the early game has just been about making sure that you can deal with these jump drive wasp. Hopefully this will make it a little bit harder to get into. I think it'll still be strong though. And I think it'll still be very playable in defensive situations, but maybe it'll create some more variety in this defense aggro dynamic that we've had. The cost of electromagnetic shots has been decreased from 200 to 100. I won't be running this. I think Wasp has 10 techs, and I think that the other ones are simply way more useful and mandatory. I don't know what you'd be giving up for it, so you won't be seeing me run this. Same thing with Ignite. I think that there are better options if you really want to try and ignite your opponent other than the Wasps. If you go for these type of plays, you will probably need range and then EMP, and your opponent can just play anti-air wasp and you will be losing. So yeah, I don't see this being used, but I might be proven wrong. Wraith got some buffs. Now this is very interesting. Its movement speed got decreased from 12 to 10. This means that it won't be staying forward as much, which means that it might be easier to get units like steel balls in front of it. Its range, more importantly, has been increased by 5 again. This unit, I think, used to start at 45 or 50 meter range, and it's gotten some buffs along the way. This will be quite significant, I think, which is good because Wraith has not seen much play as of late, which also, I think, got to do with the fact that steel balls are much less playable because of things like oil and scorpions. So it's very hard to play this. Multi-melter also quite powerful into it. So hopefully this will make it a more viable alternative on aggro for your chaff clear. I hope that we do get to see some of this again. It probably won't completely change the way that the game is played. Anti-air on marksman will still be powerful. You can probably play Phoenix into it. Multi-melter will remain strong. We've got some new air units. We've got the new Overlord. I mean, there's still plenty of counters available, but I'm excited to see what this will mean in practice. Tarantula is getting nerfs. Experience required to rank up has been increased, and HP has been decreased. Don't touch this unit. I'm not even kidding. This unit is going to be horrid. Maybe I am making the worst call here of any Mechabellum patch, but I don't think this unit will be playable at all. It's already not playable in Heimdall because people can just buy hackers if you commit to teching it, and you need to tech it because without techs, it doesn't do its job of chaff clear. If you're allowed to just do your thing, it is a good unit, I will admit. With range and HE, it's one of the best chaff clear units in the game. It's great in headbutts, but it's prone to being countered. It's a single unit. It doesn't have a lot of range, so when it gets countered, you feel it. The fact that it becomes even more hard now to make it a carry unit, or, well, to make it do its thing because of the loss of HP, the fact that Sabretooth has been added as a starting unit and a unit that you can purchase is going to make things even worse. So I probably will not be playing this, and if I am playing it, I will probably be selling it, which is a bit sad, but I hope that we'll see some changes to Tarantula in the future to make it more playable. I think currently it's not going to be in a good spot. Stormcaller's attack has been decreased from 821 to 796, a 3% decrease. A fine change. I think Stormcaller is still very powerful and standard. If you get a Stormcaller Arclight opener, I think that will still be the thing you want if your opponent is playing a long-range game as well. If they're playing aggro, obviously, you're not the most happy, but it's still playable. It's also not the biggest change. 3% is not something you're going to feel all that much. Unit drops of high level and large amount of units will appear less frequently. It's quite a short sentence, but this can have a lot of impact. I don't know what this means exactly, but unit drops can have a big impact, as all of you may know, and high level drops and large amount of drops especially can be very swingy. So dimming that down, I think, is a good thing. How much it will be, whether it will just be that they've increased the cost of certain drops, or they have actually removed some, or bumped them up in terms of on what round they can show up. That will be a very significant change, I believe, and something we'll have to keep track of. There's some bug fixes as well, but that brings us at the end. So overall, I think the most important changes, of course, are going to be the new unit. The Radiant being added. We'll have to see how this plays out. The ionized tech that it has that deals 40% of the HP, the current HP of the targets can be interesting. Might be playable into something like not overlords, war factories, especially corner factories. And yeah, I mean, it's a sick unit. I like the animation, so looking forward to playing that. New Sabretooth looks great, feels great. New starting unit, yeah. Excited to play this. Maybe pair it up with a Mustang starter, see if that is playable now. Tarantula, down the dump. Don't pick it, probably. And if you are playing into it, just probably play Sabretooth and you'll be fine. Overlord repositioning, not sure how this will impact the game. I think it still will be playable. Probably will be playing it with range and overload as my prime techs. And yeah, I still think this is going to be quite the powerhouse. We'll have to monitor it. Death Knell, great addition for Brawl and Survival if you like those game modes. This will be a fun new spec. I don't think it'll be that overpowered, but looking forward to testing it. Balance changes, yeah, Arclight going in the right direction. I think this still will be the best shafter unit available, though, especially for its cost, and it will still be able to scale along during the game. Wasp changes, Jump Drive, great change. The rest, not that impactful. Wraith will have to monitor if this makes a difference, but it is interesting that they're buffing range, because that is not something that happens very often. And yeah, the rest, Tarantula, again, don't touch it. Stormcaller, not that impactful. And unit drops, they don't say much, but I think this might have quite a big impact on what you'll be able to get offered, and it might, because of that, change the way that we play the game. Either way, I'm looking forward to it. Hope to see you guys on the battlefield. If you like the video, please leave a thumbs up. If you want to stay up to date with all my latest content, please consider subscribing. Check me out on Twitch, as I will be playing on the servers as they come out today. And yeah, with that being said, take care, guys, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.